John, we were talking about the elf on the shelf, and I'm remembering the night I forgot to move, and I found my son with his arms crossed outside the door because he had suddenly figured out the whole scam.
How did you cover it?
I made the mistake of moving the elf after he went to the bathroom, and then it just like the whole thing came unglued because now the gig was up. I was like, oh, he moved at the last second.
Monica, did you have some capers that you would use to trick your kids into believing more about Santa Claus or something magical back in the day?
No, I just, so of course I had my kids believing in Santa. And then I later felt kind of bad because when they figured it out, they were like, so you lied to us?
Yeah.
It was the same way with the tooth fairies. So,
Yeah, well, you can't Easter Bunny then too, right?
So listen, so what I started to do to try to ease them out of the Santa space was, this is from mom and dad, and this is from the other guy. And so it was kind of a slow roll to get them to the truth. But in hindsight, I do feel kind of bad.
You ramped it down, Monica, and now you're ramping up. So hey, let's get this show on the road and learn about the work of 988.
Let's do it.
Let's go.
Welcome aboard Lifelines with David and John, your guide to charting the transformative course of crisis intervention and the game-changing 988 Lifeline.
Well, welcome back to the 988 podcast, Lifelines with David and John. And every week we're going into the vault and looking at the history of crisis care, and we're looking toward the future and the vision of care that feels like care for everyone. And today we're thrilled to have our friend and colleague and national leader. She refers to Richard McKeon as King Richard. John, you called her Queen Monica, our fearless leader in 988. John, tell us a little bit about our guest today.
Oh, I couldn't be more thrilled to be welcoming Georgia's own Monica Johnson, the director of the SAMHSA 988 Behavioral Health and Crisis Coordination Office for over 2 years now. Monica's been making big things happen in behavioral health for over 22 years, but her rise to crisis care superstardom pretty much began at Georgia's Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Disabilities, and that's where she spent over about 12 years as division director overseeing community mental health and child and adolescent services for the state. And I know you can't forget about those couple of months as the interim commissioner, Monica, for the state. And then you took your outstanding leadership skills to SAMHSA's 988 office. And David, I don't see a red carpet anywhere, but if we had one, we'd certainly roll it out for you, Miss Monica, today.
Yes, we would.
Do we have a candy cane for her or anything? Something?
You know what?
Giveaway?
You guys are too much and too kind, and I appreciate all of the love in this space. So thank you for
deserve earned love, Monica.
Well, we're glad you're here, Monica. We want our audience to know a little bit about you outside. So John and I usually troll Facebook or Instagram to try to learn about the background but now that you're with the federal government, maybe those things are scrubbed. Tell us a little bit about you, the person, Monica.
Yeah, I was going to say, good luck with that. So me as a person, so I am happily married to Richard Johnson, who I have known since I was about 14, 15 years old. And we've been married for almost 9 years. And so we connected and came back later. I'm a mama. I have 2 sons, Noah and Micah, 22 and 19. And I am also a daughter with some aging, adorable, very cool parents that I am finding myself in a different role these days. So I am a lot of things to a lot of people. And obviously in this space, the director for 988 in the Behavioral Health Crisis Coordinating Office at SAMHSA, which is a pretty cool job to have.
Pretty cool job to have. So Monica, you and Richard, did y'all go together when you were in like 5th grade or did this happen later?
That you said go together. I just love that you said go together. When I say that to Like, do y'all go together? When I ask my boys about these little girls, do you go together? They're like, who said that? Hey, what does that mean?
Or even saying dating. They don't get that either. Yeah.
So yes, David, we dated. We dated when when we were younger in high school. And he said we would end up married, and I did not believe him or agree. And he will tell you if he was here, he's always right. So
He was right in that case. So, Monica, you have handcuffed me and John for our next exercise. We always take a shot at what you're a super fan of. So I'm it was so much fun growing up, but it's been painful being a super fan of the Dallas Cowboys over the last 30 years. John, you're a super fan. John went to the Taylor Swift concert.
I did it that was a long time ago, David. Then, of course, all those concerts are over with now.
So what is Monica a super fan of? I've got a piece of paper here, John. You and I are going to write, and Monica, you're going to tell us if we're just going to have to guess here. So you're going to have to tell us if one of us wins or neither. John, let's just give it a shot here. I think Monica might be. I think she might be. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, John, what have you got?
All right. Now you told us about your granddaughter earlier, so that's off limits. That's cheating.
That's cheating. Yeah.
That's cheating. All right. So I'm going to throw this one out.
Yeah, let's see it. Your son's hip hop skills.
Yeah. Oh,
am I right?
That's pretty accurate.
Well, how would you know that, John?
I mean, who doesn't know about her son's hip hop skills?
That's pretty good. David, what did you write?
I wrote that you were a super fan of Atlanta's Beltline.
Oh, I do love Atlanta's Beltline. So both things are true.
There's one more true though.
Yeah. So one of my sons is an artist. He's a student in college, but he's also a hip hop artist. And so Mama is Mama Bearing. And I am his number one fan. So he's a very talented young person.
Super fan, no less. Yeah.
Monica, before we get started, give us just a little bit on 988 Day, which was just a breakthrough in beginning to promote this national resource.
Yeah, great. Thank you for leading us into that space. That was such a wonderful moment in time. We thought of the idea. I have a fabulous communications director, Carissa Paulus, and we were talking about, lifting up the awareness around 988 during Suicide Prevention Month, which would be in September. And the idea was born of, maybe we can take 9/8 and use it as a day as awareness, and particularly during the month of suicide prevention. And so we held our first, what I hope to be many, many more 988 days where pretty much across the country, people got to be as creative as they wanted to be.
Right.
We were able to get some social media influencers and really just lift up what 988 was. And it was pretty successful.
Mm-hmm.
It was such a grassroots kind of a thing where, again, just kind of shooting around some ideas, and it turned into something that was tangible. We could see differences in terms of people being more involved and being aware and being curious about what 988 is. We're still in the early stages of this. It feels like, a long game, but it's still early. And so we know not enough people still know what 988 is. And so the education, the awareness, the ongoing need to do that is still important. And that's what 988 Day was about.
Hey, and next year, this coming year, it's going to be on a Monday, right? Which we all need a little more hope on Mondays.
I am in agreement that Mondays can be more hopeful. And so hopefully we'll bring that in. And everybody, I mean, this is something where everyone could be involved, right? In whatever spaces you were in. And so that was kind of the beauty of it. We helped set some of the framework, gave some guidance, and provided, some framework for that, but people got creative, and we hope to see more of that in the next one, hopefully to come.
Terrific office you've put together this last couple of years, Monica, that, of course, John brought some of that together, but this full team that you've built, pretty amazing.
Yeah, the one of the things that, don't get talked about often, kind of the not so sexy, I guess, stuff is the operational things that have to happen to do this work. And one of the greatest joys of this has been for me to be working with the team that I have. People don't realize, like, behind the scenes, that we've built a team. We're not a gigantic team of hundreds of people. We're a little around 30 people. And these are incredible people from all across the country. Right. So all types of perspectives, type of voices, experiences that are a part of the behind the scenes work to really make this happen, in conjunction with partners like you all in all of our states, territories, tribal nations, advocates, etc. But we're small but mighty. And it's just, it's an important part to me, and it feels special to me. Like, I am a people person. I like to feel connected to people, and this is a very special group of folks that I have an opportunity to work with.
It's small but mighty. I get a kick out of it. You're definitely mighty, but I get a kick out of it. You're calling it small because just prior to 988, the Lifeline basically had 3 people in contact with us talking, and now it's an office of superstars, and it's truly, I think, it's a very special area of SAMHSA for sure.
For sure.
Yeah, thank you, and I appreciate that, and I just can't say enough about what it's a. I've been working since I've been 15. I've never not had a job. And I've met a lot of different people, and I've worked in this space in general in behavioral health for actually 27 years. I'm 50 years old. I spent my whole adult life in behavioral health, and I've had the opportunity to meet some incredible people along the way. And every time I think, well, this is it, I've met the best people, I meet more incredible people. And this team in particular, everybody there brings such passion for the work. And I think it's not what people think about when they think about people working in federal government or any type of government. People usually have a perception that is sometimes just not accurate, that there are caring people that are doing this work because they care, because they have personal things that they may have experienced that is driving them to want to be helpful and help others. But this is an incredible group of people that I'm just in awe of, and know that it's a privilege for me to be here.
We're all privileged to have you all there.
So, John, this podcast with Monica is brought to us by our sponsor, Behavioral Health Link, and its software platform. Give us a quick promo, John.
I'm happy to. Our guest today is not only the Queen of 988, but Monica hails from Georgia, which is the state that pioneered the Crisis Now air traffic control model that epitomizes SAMHSA's vision for 988 community crisis care systems for the future. Now that model in Georgia has been fueled by BHL's software platform, one that has now been customized to coordinate care with crisis service providers across metropolitan, suburban, and rural areas in 12 other states. Now, the BHL platform's 988 Ready modules are designed to support the full continuum of crisis care services, from crisis contact hubs to GPS-enabled dispatching of mobile crisis teams, to evidence-based follow-up care, to outpatient scheduling and a crisis bed registry. These technologies assure that your people in crisis will connect to someone to talk to, have someone to respond to them, and that they have a safe place to go without waiting. So if you're interested in transforming your crisis care system, learn more about the BHL platform at behavioralhealthlink.com. David?
Thanks, John. And Monica, this space continues to get more and more interest. We actually got this PowerPoint slide from a private equity firm who was approaching different organizations. They did 60 customer reviews as they called and cold called customers across the country and identified Behavioral Health Link's software platform as the emerging market leader alongside a lot of other great products. So, but John, our next segment with Monica is the good news. John, we got some good news this week. Monica, you were on our Crisis Jam learning community that SAMHSA and NASHBID support when 988 did its 1-year anniversary. We also had for a long time, the Assistant Secretary's episode was our top participation episode. That was blown away this year when we were at the main stage at the CIT conference with our weekly episode, and it's 1,700 participants.
Wow.
We just had episode 200. This week was 201. So we were pretty excited about that. Over the course of the last, Dr. Richard McKeon and I put this group together back in the spring of 2020. So 4 years has gone by, John, Monica, and during that time, all of these individuals have presented in the Crisis Jam. So we've had 500 unique speakers. Monica, your name's in there, as well as yours, John, and 400 and a little bit more, actually more than 500 others who have shared with us their experiences, their perspectives, their questions, etc. Over that time, we have featured 35 of the states. We're still looking to get to the last ones. You see Idaho and Kansas. We're still wanting to, they've certainly had, all 50 states have had participants, but we're talking about a featured presentation or an interview with Stephanie Hepburn with our Crisis Talk. And over that time, we've constantly focused on these three core components in SAMHSA's vision outlined of 23, 25, and 27 to build capacity across all three, with presentations that have covered the gamut from those core services to mental health, suicide, substance use, IDD, peer supports, race and equity, on and on. It's been quite a journey, and Monica, you've been part of that, but John, you've been a key partner on that as well, and amazing that 4 years has gone by.
Oh, yeah. I mean, David, I remember when we were first talking about what was to become the Crisis Jam was actually a fairly modest thing of, hey, we've got to get more people involved in talking about 988 and planning for 988. And of course, we had the planning grants, but we also needed a place for people to convene. And Richard was saying, let's do something like this. I need to get some feedback from states and other stakeholders about what are some of their challenges. So it's really used initially just to give SAMHSA some feedback. And Richard, and you had I think the brainy idea of like, well, let's do this, but let's make it more like the Tonight Show or something like that. And you brought Showtime to it, dude.
Yeah, well, so Richard originally drew it together in April of 2020 in relationship to COVID and the impact on supply and demand of the pandemic. And it started with some of our organizations, and then we started having other crisis providers join us. But by the fall, it was clear Richard and SAMHSA were looking for feedback in the report on 988 that both the Veterans Administration and SAMHSA had to provide to the FCC as a result of the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline Designation Act. So we started inviting states to the table, in addition to the usual cadre of crisis providers and researchers and lived experience and advocates. And before you knew it, Brian Hepburn had all 50 states at the table. So it's been quite a journey, Monica, and so appreciated the partnership with John Palmieri and Melina Shaw and Anita Everett and Richard McKeon and so many others as we've tried to convene this learning community and get to that collective impact of everyone.
Yeah, you know, what's funny about that is that when I was on the other side, so I was still at the Department for Behavioral Health in Georgia when Crisis Jam was starting, and you had said about the connectivity during COVID, because we were at that time implementing. So I've been in this unique space where at one point in time I was a part of being on the ground leading the work around implementation of 988. But also we were just still dealing with the pandemic, and just a lot of things were coming at us in very different ways. And that was seen as a place for some connectivity. How are people going to be doing this? And so I do have that in my vaults, in my
Yeah.
head, of
Yeah.
what that experience felt like and how we were appreciative of having a space to be able to come together and hear how other people were thinking about doing things. Just the shared experiences
Right.
is helpful, and that was useful for me. And I say that from being on that side when it was happening, and glad to be here now and seeing it continue to grow, seeing how people show up. When I've had an opportunity to be there, I'm always like, there's a lot of people that are interested in the community and learning and understanding what's happening, getting their voices heard. It's a great community that has been built. So I think you should be very proud of what you built in that space.
Thank you.
Monica, you were talking about the vault of your experiences. And as we were just talking about the origins and the journey of Crisis Jam, but you also mentioned that you've been in behavioral health 25 years, your entire adult life.
27.
27 years. So that being said, did you think I want to get into mental health? Did you stumble into it? How did all that happen? And then how did you get into the public mental health space?
I thought I was going to be doing so many different things. This definitely was not on my bingo card. And you just never know. It's kind of, life is just funny that way. You never know what's around the corner. I started out thinking I'd be a journalist. There was a Monica Kaufman was on a very well-known news anchor woman here in Atlanta, and I saw her. Her name was Monica. My name was Monica. I thought, hey, maybe that's what I'll do. And then when I got into college, and like most people, you kind of play around with different things. I thought I was going to go into public relations at one point. I was going to do like crisis public relations because I was seeing a lot of athletes seem to be getting in trouble.
Yeah.
And I was like, they need somebody that could be a good spokesperson for them and help them navigate this. So that's what I thought I was going to do. So I jokingly said that I was Olivia Pope. I wanted to be Olivia Pope before I knew who Olivia Pope was or before she existed. And then I stumbled I remember being hesitant between two fields. After that, I was thinking about law school and graduate school for psychology. Some life events happened. I ended up changing schools, and I went with psychology. And then my first job was at Devereaux Residential Treatment Facility in Metro Atlanta.
Yeah.
And I wasn't that older than some of the youth that were there at the time. I was a direct care professional, and that job I was working at the same time at a law firm because I couldn't decide. So my advice to young people, I always tell people this: if you think you want to do something, be around the people that do the thing you think you may want to do. And so I was around lawyers, and I was around people that were, working in what would be psychology fields. And it was a pretty easy decision for me. And I went with graduate school. And I remember the lawyer that I was working for, when I told him that, he was like, "What? Why would you pick that? Like, of course you should go to law school." And I was like, "No, I think I want to go this path." He was like, "I don't know why you're doing that. You're never going to make money. You're never going to." He had a list of all the things that would go wrong if I decided to go into psychology and pursue this as a career. I was right. He was wrong. And I decided that you follow your passion. And that's what I did. I followed my heart. I fell in love with the work because of that first job at Devereaux. I fell in love with the youth that I was working with. And it felt like this was the path for me. And it just kind of evolved from there.
And Monica, flash forward. Here we are now, 2.5 years into 988.
Yeah.
Wow, what a journey. Monica, what are you most proud of? Top sort of celebration of many of 988 right now? And what's the top challenge on your mind?
Yeah. So I'm most proud of the fact that I said earlier, like, not, a part of 988 Day was raising awareness. And for me, I don't want to forget or not lift up how many people do know about
Yeah.
988. And I
Yeah.
am proud of that. I am proud when I hear people, rather it's through written communication, or they walk up to me and tell me that they've used 988 and that it saved their lives. I don't make those stories up. These are real things that have happened, where people that I told about the number and they're like, oh my God, I'm so glad this exists. And I'm going to tell X amount of people. So I feel proud about that. I feel proud that we are at this moment in time where we have a 988, and that the system as a result is doing something that has been needed to be done for a long time, which is look at what are we doing for individuals that have behavioral health needs, are in a crisis, but also what happens before that crisis and what happens after. And so now the system is going through a significant transformation. It is states, territories, tribal nations. Everybody is now looking at how do we really, really create a system that can meet the needs of people with behavioral health needs. So the transformative nature of this, and seeing that 988 is the catalyst for it, I could not be more proud. So that in itself is no longer philosophy. It is practice and action. This is the most amazing work that I've seen happen across the country. So that is what I would say I'm most proud of. The challenges is kind of the flip side of that. So when you have this amount of significant change to happen at the same time, it creates challenges. It creates workforce is always going to be an issue. And so it continues to be one. I think there have been some creative ways in which it's been addressed, but you still have workforce challenges. There is access challenges. There's geography challenges. We want to make sure that every community, marginalized communities, people that we know are more at risk, are getting access to the supports that are needed. So those continue to be challenges, is that when you have such significant change, there's going to be a lot of, the flip side of that is it's not easy, because if it was easy, then we would have already had this great, perfect system. So I think that's the challenge, is the work, the amount of people that it takes to do this, the sustainability of these efforts. I think the will to stay with it, because it's going to take time. If you are in this and looking at this work unfold and looking for a quick fix, it's going to take time to do the big system change. So it's going to require some patience. And I think we as a society are getting more, we want instant gratification. And so we don't have the patience as much as we used to. So I think that kind of can complicate some things along the way. But if we persevere and stay focused and build the building blocks and leave the blueprints, it won't matter, who's sitting in what seats, because the work will continue as long as we embed it into the fabric of this country.
Love it, Monica. So, John, you and I started working together literally 20 years to this month, like right now.
Yeah.
And so, Monica, John was the director at the time, and I was the vice chair of the SAMHSA steering committee for the Lifeline. And we've seen a number of numbers from 1-800-SUICIDE to the Lifeline, the 40-year-old Fulton County crisis line we took over, and then we replaced that with a new statewide number in 2006. So we've watched new numbers come up before and old numbers get extinguished. And I've never seen anything like the speed. So no, we're not there, but the speed of this 2.5 years, it's lightning. It's lightning, Monica. And I think some of that's the efforts and leadership of you and Assistant Secretary and SAMHSA. And some of it is the generation we live in today. And some of it is the power of what's on your shirt. It's just the simplicity of what the FCC put together. So when we started, and we've loved this adoption, as you so easily referenced substance use and mental health and suicide. But when we started, it was about suicide. So, John,
Right.
I'm going to go in the vault for our now over-under segment. And, John, you and I were involved in the Zero Suicide Initiative back with Mike Hogan and Becky Stoll and a host of others back in 2011. And right at that time was the publication, John, we got to see Nav Kapoor this summer at the Zero Suicide Summit. Nav was one of the authors of this study, an implementation of mental health service recommendations in England and Wales and suicide rates. And what they did was they looked at mental health organizations, mental health providers across England and Wales, and they looked at 9 recommendations: the removal of ligature points in crisis programs or residential or inpatient, ACT teams, 24-hour crisis teams, 7-day follow-up, non-compliance policies, dual diagnosis policies, criminal justice information sharing, multidisciplinary reviews after a suicide, and training in suicide risk. And they looked at that in 1998, the average organization was doing none of those, not one of them. I guess somebody was doing one because the average was 0.3, but across the board, mostly not doing any of those. So our over-under, and John, I'm going to put you on the spot, and Monica can just say it was higher or lower. Within 7 years, that number had increased to what? Because the study is about the difference in before and after. So 7 years, John, that's, and Monica, we're talking about change can be slow in the behavioral space. 988 has been a amazing game changer, but 7 years is, 8 years is fast, John. What is the number out of, it was 0, could have gotten to a max of 9.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's interesting because I do remember the study, and I remember that the 2 biggest impacts of all of those that reduced suicide was the removal of ligature points and, not surprisingly, the 24-hour crisis team. But I don't recall the number of institutions that had taken the recommendations at hand. But I'm going to guess that you're saying 0, so you say 9 is the highest as opposed.
Well, there are 9 recommended practices on the board.
In
1998, in a survey of mental health organizations across England and Wales, they weren't doing them.
Right.
8 years later, they surveyed again, and clearly there's a study about those who were doing these, so it has to go down.
All right. Yeah, I think the average, is that what we're looking for? The
average per organization.
Yeah, I'm going to say 4.
Monica, over or under?
Over.
It's over, John. It's pretty striking that England and Wales were able to get their mental health organizations to put into practice many of these elements. And what they came up with is it made a difference. It lowered suicide rates in both cross-sectional and before and after analyses. And John, you referenced removal of ligature points, but the number one was 24-hour crisis teams. Monica, they found mental health organizations didn't have that, and then they did, and it made a big freaking difference.
Yeah.
And they paid someone to find that out, Monica.
We could have told them that for free.
So, John, I think that lays up your next question.
When the FCC made the decision to assign a 3-digit number to the Lifeline, Monica, which we all remember was a very exciting day. Chairman Pai really said that the big thing was that he felt like it was going to reduce suicide rates, that if we could make this 3-digit number more accessible by making it more memorable, easier to dial, and that we know it could reduce people's suicidality, then we owe it to ourselves, we owe it to our system, we owe it to our people. to do whatever we can to make it as accessible as possible. And so it was about lowering the suicide rate. Now we know that 988 alone is not going to lower the suicide rate alone. It's going to be other things, but there's something it can do and things that it can do. And what do you think? Is there something now that you believe we could do better or more of that could actually have an impact or have a greater impact on lowering suicide rates?
I think that what we're doing obviously now is very critical and matters, and continuing to build upon that by making it as accessible as possible. The recent accomplishment of our being able to move to geo routing, with at least we got 2 of the major carriers right now. The rules that are came from that from the FCC. And then we expect the third major carrier to come on soon. And then we'll move on to the second tier. That's important when you talk about saving people's lives, because you're getting people connected where they actually are, which is a really big deal. So that to me, continue to build on and improve the operations of the Lifeline and that local connectivity being enhanced. But I also think that there's a couple of things that are at play here, and it's not one single thing that gets to this. I think it's many things. I don't think that the work around prevention should be lost. People get very excited about the things that are, new and shining, whatnot, but you still have to have robust prevention efforts in place. And in some places, people don't like to fund prevention or don't see the connection to the work of prevention and how that does save lives, particularly when you can target at-risk populations. When I think about youth and the ACEs, and there are so many indicators that are available. So leaving that in, thinking about that, and then thinking about making sure that when people show up to your systems in a crisis, that they are being met with the appropriate level of support and care and connection, so that when the crisis is over, that they have those connections and they have the services and supports that they need. I think tapping into non-traditional support is important. We tend to think about this in a clinical manner and not think about making sure. I shouldn't think about like CPR, making sure. So, mental health first aid and whatnot, but thinking about making sure that you're making the education around this work, around suicide prevention, around 988 available to the religious communities, the people in your, think about just like your neighbors, right? That people that may not reach out to traditional individuals or traditional places for support, that you begin to infuse it in people's communities, that education, so that people can be supported where they are. You think about, barbershops, nail salons, hair salons, spas. Where do people go? Where are kids? Where are, older people? Where do farmers go? How do you get into the communities so people, it's that stigma, and people feel like, they can help their neighbor, and it's not just about coming to, professionals per se. So I think all of those things matter. It was a lot in there that I could parse out, but I think all the pieces matter.
It's a great point, Monica, because what we saw on the heels of 911, and we have a better emergency response, is there was also, we've got to do better at prevention. So there was more diet and exercise that was talked about. Here's how you can prevent heart attacks. And here are things that we can do in terms of CPR. And that came on the heels of that, as you were talking about, kind of an emotional CPR, and also fire prevention and crime prevention. So all of that is true. And that, I think 988 really could allow more preventive activities to be funded.
Yeah. And I think, for me, the biggest thing has been more, I've not seen anything else. And I I have searched my memory banks for quite some time to really try to find something comparable in the behavioral health space where something has been as stigma reducing as this has been.
Yeah.
It hasn't eliminated it, but it's stigma reducing because now 988 feels like a part of like the normal general population conversation. And so it breaks down these barriers around what I have to. This is about people over there that I can't identify with. This is about labeling people. Now it's about, listen, if you are having any type of crisis, and rather that's thoughts of suicide or whatever it may be, remembering this 3-digit number that anybody can use. I think it just brings it into the mainstream more. And I think that's what you're seeing, the interest in it. I think that's why you're seeing that. It's everywhere.
Yeah. Monica, I was so thrilled when you took this position. Your history in Georgia, your understanding of an integrated system, but your leadership in state government. One of the things that struck me the most when SAMHSA and Vibrant came together in 2005 was bringing NASHBA to the table for the first time. Bob Glover as the executive director, and there was always a state mental health commissioner who was the chair of that group. But it still at that time was rare for a state like a Georgia or Arizona who are putting $300+ million into a full continuum of crisis services. It just wasn't the case back then. The states didn't bring much to the table generally. But that is changing fast, Monica. So how are you thinking about how I've seen a great partnership with states, but it's been a little bit of a small P partnership, and we're hoping for more of a marriage. It's messy, but we'd love to hear your vision for how the federal and state should work together as we go forward.
I love this question. I really do. This is my wheelhouse. I love this question because I do have the perspective now of both, right? And this won't be sustainable without ongoing partnership between both federal and state, local collaborations. And it is not easy. It is going to take flexibility. It's going to take patience. It's going to take grace. It's going to take creative funding, creative support. And what you see happening across the country, and I say this often because it's the singular it's the strongest piece of evidence of the change that we're talking about. It's not just us because we love the work. And so we're just, overhyping it. That's not it. You see the amount of states that have implemented some type of legislation or have an appropriation for something related to 988, rather it's maybe a 988 surcharge, like on a cell phone bill, rather it's an appropriation for not just the 988 component, but also for parts of the crisis continuum, rather it's trust funds, rather it's study commissions. You see so much activity happening legislatively across the country, which is how you build things into the fabric, right? And so that movement, it's over 50% of states have something happening. I've never seen anything like that happen at the same time and so fast. So that's my evidence of when I say the transformation. While we got work to do and we got some years of work ahead of us, the collective is going to take both. It's important to have the federal perspective because it's a national program, because you want to be able to experience the same thing. I mean, you kind of wanted the currents of the concept of 988 is that I can be anywhere in this great country.
Right.
And if I am having a behavioral health emergency, I can dial 988 and I should have the same experience.
Yep.
Just like we do with 911. If you are if you live in Arizona and you are in California and you have a medical emergency, everybody knows to call 911. Everybody. So we are trying to build a parallel system like that for individuals that are having behavioral health crises. And you need that federal response to be able to make sure there's continuity, there is that same expectation across. And that we can help support in the ways that we've been doing, rather it's through grants, rather it's through technical assistance, rather it's through, policy academies, collaborations, whatever it may look like, standards, so that there's a certain quality that's expected. But then you need the local flavor, because every single community is different. You've seen a state, you have done just that. You've seen a state. And if you have seen a state, within the state, there are often many, many pockets of little states, right? Many, many kingdoms. And so I think that the communities know their communities the best. They want to be able to support their communities. They want to have policies that make sense for their local citizens, but we have to figure out how to do that together. It's complicated. It's not going to be easy, but it is the way I think that works best, at least for where we are right now.
Terrific. Monica, we also learned that you're an author.
Yeah.
Right. I do right.
Fab 30 Critical Leadership Lessons for Women.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Is that Monica Kaufman or Monica Johnson?
That was Monica Johnson.
Yeah. Just a few years.
So Monica, John and I are aspiring authors and not achieved that yet. So tell us the top challenges. I'm going to run through a list, and you just tell me super challenge, not so much.
Okay.
Number one, finding your voice.
Not for me. Is this me personally?
Yeah.
Not
when
challenging.
You wrote your book.
Not challenging.
Okay. Defining your audience.
Not challenging.
Overcoming self-doubt.
Not challenging.
Staying disciplined.
Somewhat challenging.
Balancing writing with other responsibilities.
Very challenging.
Receiving and processing feedback.
Not challenging. It happens all the time.
And finishing the project.
Not challenging.
Okay.
I got
That was fun.
I got such a kick out of it. I read a little bit of the excerpt of your book on Amazon, Monica, and you had a view by your elementary school teacher. Basically, she put something on your report card about, what a natural leader you were. And look at this thing there. Just so awesome.
True story.
Yeah.
That was a true story.
Yeah.
I have the actual report card. My mom keeps everything. And so I have the actual report card. That was a real thing.
Tell David exactly what she said. It was hilarious.
So essentially, I don't remember what was written, but essentially, I had started preschool. I think I was in pre-K 4. And I actually remember the name of the place. I have vivid memories of there. And she had said that I had started the year late, like being enrolled or whatever. And despite that, like I was doing well and I was a little leader. And so I don't remember the exact quote. I don't have it in front of me, but she basically said that I was a leader. And I was like 4. What I think that means is I probably was bossy.
That's what it was. That's right.
I was bossing around the other little kids that was with me. That's what was happening. So leader, bossy, I don't know, but
you were on top of it, Monica.
True story though.
You were on top of it.
Yeah, no, that's great. But I am, I know that you had you've had a few leadership challenges at your work. Now, what do you think are like the top 2 or 3 tips that you gave others for leadership you think that have most helped you in the 988 office?
Oh, that's a good question. I think being coachable. So for me, that means maintaining a space of curiosity. So like not thinking you know all the things. And so be curious about what you don't know. And assume there is something you're missing. I think when you lean in from a space of curiosity, that you learn a lot of things. And I think that's important. I think it's important to make sure that you are not speaking into an echo chamber, and that I think good leaders should seek out ideas and thoughts and opinions that are different from their own, because if not, you are likely to miss something important. I think having empathy is really important to me as a leader, and I think it's a skill that leaders should have. People are human and bring a lot of things, and so I think being empathetic to people and not having to experience something in order to have empathy, I think is important. And I think being able to change course or correct course. Some people don't like to say they're wrong, and so they'll keep driving towards the thing, even though the GPS is saying turn left, and they still keep driving forward because they don't want to be wrong. So I think being able to course correct is important, and you should be comfortable with that. You can take the left turn and go another way and still maybe get to where you thought you were trying to get to anyway. So those are the ones that come to mind.
And I think we don't see every one of those things you mentioned in you, Monica. Absolutely.
Oh, thank
Monica, that last one, I mean, isn't that the status of our current age of if you can't analyze and adapt, you're going to struggle.
Yeah. And that's the biggest thing, being able to adapt. I'm glad you just said it that way. Being able to adapt is so important.
So, Monica, this now is time for Crisis Rapid Fire, and it's a good thing you've got your communications people here, because now we're going to put you on the hot seat with the tough questions. You have to tell us, between Atlanta and Washington, D.C., now you're straddling your history in Atlanta. Best food, Monica?
Atlanta.
Yeah, that's not even a question, is it? That was an easy one.
Yeah.
Cultural vibes.
Don't get me in trouble. Can I say both places? Because these guys like about both places equally.
What do you like about both?
So DC is dope. I mean, it has just the history and all the museums, and it's just every time you come, you get the feels, and it's just a special place. The people are cool. Like it's just a special place. But Atlanta is also a really cool place as well.
So this is the truth according to Monica, but ChatGPT said food, that's Georgia by a mile, and cultural vibes, it says it's a tie. So you're so far 2 for 2, Monica.
What kind of experience does ChatGPT have? I mean,
it's out there, John. Outdoor activities, Monica.
Atlanta.
Yeah. And sports. Oh, this was a tough one. I hate to put you on the spot, Monica. Sports. Atlanta or DC?
Atlanta.
Yeah, I'm with you.
And who do you follow, Monica?
They're the Braves. I mean, we got the Atlanta Braves.
Yes, you do.
I'm not going to say anything about the Falcons right
No,
now.
you know what it is.
So we got the Hawks. I mean, we got United. So, I mean, that was kind of easy.
We won't give you the final showdown one, which we put to ChatGPT, but shopping and fashion.
Atlanta?
I mean, it's kind of boring in Washington, actually.
I did not say that.
I said it.
Monica, John, that brings us to our last two segments. John, it's time for the absolutely true tales of behavioral health.
Oh my gosh. Are we going to actually tell the truth this time, David?
Every time, John,
All
every
right.
time. These are rooted in the truth.
All
But today we're going to do our first trivia question for the absolute true tales. In 2012, the impact of the Great Recession reached its zenith with crisis call centers across the country and their performance. The triple squeeze included increasing volume, decreasing funding, and expanding scope of demands of what funders looked for and required in what should occur in a call contact. So, John, this question is to you. What metaphor did the BHL leadership use to depict the impact of this triple squeeze? I don't know if you may know the answer to this, John.
I do know, because it's
If
so
you do-
ridiculous, David.
If
Oh
you
my
do
God.
know, don't say it, John. Don't say it. Let's
No,
ask
I'm-
Monica. So
no.
Monica, Wendy Farmer, who's now with Vibrant, was the CEO of Behavioral Health Link at the time. And her presentation, which metaphor did it use? Amazon fulfillment centers, the Chiquita Banana marine vessels, the NASA space shuttle, or the operations of the Hoover Dam?
I have no idea.
When they
any
used the
of
metaphor, we had no idea either. Like, what are you talking about?
Is there a call a friend option here?
So, John,
me.
tell us the answer.
Banana boat?
It was banana boat. So this is the Chiquita Dole banana boat that comes into San Diego. I happened to be at a conference. The National Council was right next to that boat in the Hilton there, and that's from my room. And you can see they come up with a little truck. It's not even a truck. It's just a tractor trailer bed, and the container goes right on, and the refrigerated container goes away. So Wendy Farmer compared the work of the funder and the provider, our joint Banana Grove farm, if you will, and container boat in the years immediately before and after the onset of the Great Recession. Her presentation was titled Comparing Apples and Oranges, or maybe better, Bananas and Watermelons, because you can't get the same number of watermelons in. So, John, over under to end here today with our interactive segment. How many bananas, John, does that boat carry? Because it is a number, John. It's not however many calls you get, you can handle. If you get too many bananas, you can't put them on the boat. They go in the water, they rot in the field. So that was the interactive back and forth we had, Monica, back in the day. John, how many bananas does that boat carry? Doesn't carry more?
Particular? Oh, Lord.
You got to guess, John.
I'm just going to not waste a lot of time and guess 50,000, but it's probably less.
50,000 on the boat. 50,000 bananas are on that
Brain
ship.
bananas, too, probably.
Monica,
I'm going to go under this time.
Yeah.
50,000 bananas.
I'm going to go under.
Okay, that boat.
But crushed bananas, David, we're talking.
No, it's a full banana.
Okay.
A banana.
All right.
That banana, that boat carries, just like when you go to the grocery store and you get your little 6-8 bananas in a little group.
Mm-hmm.
The bananas, that boat has the space for 600 of those containers. Each of those containers carries 10,000 boxes.
Okay.
Oh,
And
wow.
each of the boxes carries 1,000 bananas. No, 100 bananas per box. So 100 bananas in a box, 10,000 boxes in a container, 600 boxes. It's 60 million bananas in each boat.
That is crazy. I
So
would have
if,
never.
John,
never-
you decide to use watermelons, you can't get 60 million watermelons in that boat, is
Right. There you go.
what Wendy was saying. Hey, John, that's the absolutely true tales of
Well,
behavioral health.
that is plain silly, David. I think what we need is this stone cold plain truth now. I mean, I think that's what we need right now.
There's math behind all this, John. But that brings us to our final segment, John. I'd like to bring. I hope it's some plain truth for today, John.
I'm ready for it. After that, I need it right now.
There was a logic to that, John.
Okay.
When we talk about crisis care, we must start with the concept that we should anchor everything we do in dignity. The United Nations Convention on the Right of Persons with Disabilities begins with this powerful idea. Its preamble reminds us to recognize the inherent dignity and worth of all people. It's not just aspirational, it's foundational. It's the bedrock upon which all equitable and humane systems of care must be built. This principle I was reminded of it, and I'm going to bring up a photo of the summit in Amsterdam this summer. Monica, you and John, both of y'all were there. And I had a group of individuals with lived experience come up after and that's the wrong page. Let's see if I can bring up the right screen. But a group of individuals with lived experience brought up one of the trivia hot seat little sheets, and on the back, they'd written this statement about dignity, human rights, and in particular, the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities, and their hope that these ideas would be pushed into the global consensus values on crisis care that we're hoping to release this month. But during that gathering, I looked at these words, raw, unfiltered, deeply moving. They very much underscored a painful truth. Our systems are too often punishing to those who reach out for help. We began laying the groundwork for a larger global consensus values on crisis care document, which we're going to release. And these values aim to enshrine dignity as a global standard and guide us into a new era of compassionate and person-centered crisis response. But let's be clear, dignity is not some abstract or lofty ideal. It's about the real, tangible experiences of people in crisis. Every single day, tens of thousands of individuals in a behavioral health crisis encounter systems that treat them as problems to be managed rather than people deserving of care and respect. We've all seen it, detained in cold and soulless hospital emergency department rooms for days on end. Heads forcibly pushed down into the back of a patrol car for transport, wrists shackled behind their backs. These types of experiences strip away humanity, amplify trauma, and erode trust in the very systems that are meant to help. And the consequences of this dignity deficit are not just heartbreaking, they can be deadly. A recent study from Allegheny County, Pennsylvania, that Ken Thompson brought to me revealed that up to 20% of individuals who are involuntarily hospitalized for psychiatric care die within the next 5 years. 20%. Let that sink in. That's a mortality rate that surpasses that of individuals exiting jail, enrolling in homeless shelters, receiving food assistance, as well as those diagnosed with severe mental illness. And it's not just an anomaly. A meta-analysis published in the BMJ Open reported that the suicide rate in the first week post-discharge from psychiatric hospitalization was approximately 3,000 per 100,000 person years and about 2,000 per 100,000 person years in the first month post-discharge. These rates, of course, are alarmingly higher than the global average suicide rate, which stands at 9 per 100,000 population. This data reinforces what Dr. Michael Schoenbaum has been telling us for many years from the National Institute for Mental Health. In our very first SAMHSA Interdepartmental Serious Mental Illness Coordinating Committee, he called for a critical need for all mortality reporting in behavioral health care systems overall. We still don't have it. So the scale of the challenge could be greater than we even suspect. This isn't just a crisis of dignity, it's a crisis of life and death. Yet amidst these grim realities, there's hope. The launch of 988, as Monica has told us throughout this podcast has given us an incredible foundation. It represents a paradigm shift, a system rooted in compassion, accessibility, and connection. For countless individuals, it's a lifeline in their darkest moments. But as vital as 988 is, we cannot stop there. Dignity must extend beyond the voice on the other end of the phone or text line. It must permeate every aspect of our systems and the higher end services and support for those for whom 988 will not be enough. That means every policy, every protocol, every interaction, every decision we make must begin and end with respect for the humanity of the person in crisis. And the time to act is now. Let's move beyond punitive, outdated responses and fully embrace the transformative power of dignity. SAMHSA is seeking public comment on revised national guidelines for crisis care. When the ISMIC started with SAMHSA back in 2017, in its initial report, we were challenged by the then Secretary of Health to dig deep and provide what he called a candid and sober assessment of the challenge and the solutions required to innovate for hope. We encourage SAMHSA to do the same today as we craft a document for the next era. Together, we can create systems of care that not only save lives, but also honor the inherent worth of every individual who turns to us in their time of need. Monica, your leadership at SAMHSA has been instrumental in advancing these critical initiatives. Your unwavering commitment to dignity and compassionate care serves as a beacon for all of us striving to make a difference in crisis response. Thank you for your partnership and your dedication to this vital work.
Thank you, David. Thank you so much. And
Oh.
right back at you. Thank you.
And can I get an amen, David? That was beautiful. And,
Trying to
what a
make me
great
cry.
way to end our year, David. I mean, that's it for us today. That was gorgeous. And it's also just wonderful being with Miss Monica, Queen of 988, Monica Johnson, for making time in your busy schedule for us today. So, and you're such a
It's my
charmer,
pleasure.
and it's always great to be with you, Monica.
It's my pleasure. Thank you all. Thank you for your partnership and your ongoing commitment, advocacy work in this space. David, those were beautiful words, a wonderful call to action, honoring everything that has gotten us to this point and acknowledging what we have to do to continue to move this forward. So just appreciate you all. And thank you for having me in this space today.
Yeah, and we're going to keep
great. Thank you.
pushing it forward, Monica, and we're going to be taking a little holiday break first. So we'll be back in a couple of weeks, and that's when we'll be back at like mid-January with Preston Looper, a national expert in mobile crisis services, also the CEO of Full Tilt Strategies Consulting. But for now, let's all stay warm with our loved ones this holiday season and stay anchored and look out for the lifelines that we toss your way in the new year.